Kisa cha msanii Muiní akitambulikana na wengi kama Sammy Boy, akiwa ni moja kati ya wasanii tajika katika ulingo wa nyimbo za injili hasa kutumia lugha ya Kikuyu. Ni kisa kilichogonga vyombo vya habari na kupata kuongelewa kwa namna nyingi. Wakenya wakiungana kuweza kumhurumia na kuweza hasa kuomba Sammy Boy apate kuachiliwa kutokea gerezani, ambapo kwa sasa yupo kule katika gereza la Naivasha Maximum Prison, ambapo Sammy Boy ameshikiliwa na kuweza kupatikana na hatia ya kufungwa maisha gerezani. Kipindi chake na story yake kwa mara ya kwanza kujulikana ilipata kuchapishwa naye mtangazaji maarufu kutokea katika kituo cha runinga ya Inooro TV inayomilikiwa naye na kampuni ya Royal Media Services, akiwa ni Simon Kibe katika kipindi cha Jera Ineshito. Hicho ndicho kipindi kilichomleta Sammy Boy kupata kujulikana na wengi nchini. Ila ukweli ni kwamba wale ambao walimwonea huruma Sammy Boy na kuongea mengi kuhusiana na jinsi ambavyo walipata kuweza kuwa framed kwa ajili ya wizi, kilipata kuwa ni kipindi tu Sammy Boy alipata kukipanga, ila yeye mwenyewe alikuwa gaidi tajika, mtu ambaye maafisa wa polisi walikuwa wametoa tahadhari ya the most wanted kwa ajili ya uhalifu na wizi ambao Sammy Boy pamoja na kikosi chake walikuwa wametekeleza. Leo hapa ndani ya GUIKUÀ FM podcast nataka tuzamie kwa undani katika kisa hiki ili upate kuelewa yale ambayo tunayomaanisha. Now, nikipata kuzamia story yote nzima. It became a household name in 2014 following the release of the hit song No Hira 2. It was just yesterday. Sammy Boy, whose real name is Samuel Madenge Moniki, wowed audiences with his melody voice. The gospel song tells a tale of how one toils for long to make ends meet and then turns his life around. His rising star had at the time caught the eyes of popular artists in the industry who wanted to do collaboration with him. Sammy Boy was on the verge of stardom, but the tables turned on him and he found himself in a battle to save not just his promising music career but also his life. Last year, he was sentenced to death for taking part in an armed robbery. He has appealed the sentence and maintains his innocence. He argues that he is a victim of circumstances, having found himself at the wrong place at the wrong time after trusting a wrong friend. To his largely religious fan base, he is an enduring character, thus the news of his imprisonment took most aback. Now, behind bars. But there is more about the musician than what meets the eye. In the eyes of the law, Sammy Boy is a dangerous criminal who has no place in the society. Chief Magistrate Kennedy Bidali had no doubts when he convicted him of robbery with violence and sentenced him to hang. The popular musician had been off air for some time, and last month, this is a story that was written in 2021 that we are publishing. He became a talking point after he made a television appearance from behind bars. Since he was handed his sentence in December 2021, he has been at the Naivasha Maximum Prison. Despite being convicted of the offense, Sammy Boy insists he was wrongly charged, as he was only found in possession of items he claims he did not know were stolen. But detectives investigating the robbery put a story case that placed Sammy Boy at the scene of the crime. All I would say is, know your friends. I am in here because I agreed to hold some items for Fred, who said he was having trouble with his landlord. I thought they belonged to him because it was not the first time he had made such a request, Sammy Boy told Inooro TV. If his narrative is anything to go by, he ought to have been charged only with the offense of being in possession of stolen goods. So how then did detectives attached to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations arrive at the conclusion that he was part of the armed robbery 6 years ago? a question that many ask themselves, and many who doubted that Sammy boy was innocent still have the question in their mind. He was a double-faced man. In regards to a piece that was published together, the Nation Media Group pieced together 3 strands of evidence that investigators relied upon to win Sammy boy's conviction and incarceration, including details of a double-faced man who turned out to be one of Central Kenya's most wanted gangsters. Sammy boy entered the gospel music scene in 2011. Then things went south 4 years later. Court documents reveal or show that on the night of August 6, 2015, a gang of 6 held at a gunpoint a family of British investors and their Kenyan staff in an attack at their home in Gilgil, Nakuru County. Sammy boy was identified as one of the gangsters who took part in the 6-hour siege at Malewa Bush Ventures camp in Gilgil. The camp's director, Christine Mary Campbell, and her husband, Christopher Edward Campbell, had returned from shopping around 8 p.m. on the fateful night. They had planned to prepare and have supper with their mother and 2 close associates identified as Sharon Lindy Pape and Kate Bentley. 3 of their Kenyan employees, including a nurse who was caring for their ailing mother, were also present. Testimonies given by the victims show that 6 armed men broke into their home some minutes to 8 p.m. They were armed with a rifle, pistol, and knives for the robbery, which detectives believed had been planned prior, complete with regular surveillance of the property to learn the movement of the occupants. They entered the compound's exterior kitchen first, where they accosted Mr. Benson Mwereri, a worker. He was tied up and ordered to remain quiet. Miss Christine, who was helping with the cooking, said that as soon as she entered the kitchen, she was also captured by the gangsters and tied up. But they then proceeded to rob them of their phones and jewelry. Her husband, Christopher, was next to be captured. 2 of the robbers were left to guard the 3, while the rest of the gang proceeded to the main house. In a few minutes, the gang had rounded up all 8 occupants of the house in the living room. They even dragged out the couple's ailing mother from bed, but after pleading with them, they agreed to escort her back. In their testimonies, the victims also told the court that the robbers were not wearing masks and at the time, and kept on taunting them, and at some point even identified themselves as kama kikosi hiki cha huko Somalia ambacho hufanya mambo kama hayo. Jina hilo hatulipendi sana kulitaja. For the next 4 hours, the gang ransacked the house, taking away anything they deemed valuable. They stashed their loot into 2 vehicles belonging to the Campbells. The gang took cash, both in local and foreign currencies, assorted electronics, including phones, tablets, laptops, and other house appliances. A guitar was also reported stolen from the home. Around midnight, the victims were burdened into the boots of the 2 vehicles, both Toyota Prados. Then they entered both vehicles and started driving towards Langalanga. We drove for about 2.5 kilometers before stopping, Mr. Campbell said. The gang reportedly stayed at the spot for about 2 hours as they negotiated how they would split the loot while taking turns to watch their hostages. At some point, the gangsters said 2 have disagreed on how much money they had stolen. They had to check with the victims how much money they had before the robbery. Around 2 p.m., the gang is said to have entered 1 vehicle and drove off, but not before deflating 2 tires of the other vehicle and throwing away the ignition key. One of the workers then walked to the nearest police station to get assistance. Now, after this, a manhunt for the gang was launched. Detectives based at the Gilgil police station initiated a manhunt for the gang that drove towards Nairobi. Using phone data and after questioning a suspect who had been arrested in connection with the heist, police managed to track down the stolen items to Kinoo, on the outskirts of Nairobi 5 days later. On August 12, 2015, Sammy Boy was arrested after being found with stolen items. They were stashed in a minivan, which the nation established and learned that had been hired 3 days before on August 9th by Sammy Boy, the one who claims to be innocent. Even though the musician claims that the items belonged to a friend, detectives managed to uncover that he had hired the van from one Sammy Gujiri, who runs a rental car business in Kino. He even deposited copies of his identification documents with the car hire services, saying he needed to travel to Nyeri. Mr. Gujiri had reportedly become suspicious when Sammy Boy failed to return the vehicle on August 11, 2015. He soon learned that it had been impounded in connection to a robbery case and taken to Gilgil police station. Sammy Boy was eventually implicated and charged with robbery with violence alongside Simon Mwangi Nguyai, Robert Muirigi Mureithi, Elias Keva, Elias Karithi Gichuki, Paul Duita Washira, and Anthony Daiga Wandu. When Sammy Boy was interrogated by the detectives, he stuck to his narrative that the items belonged to his friend. He took the same defense to court during trial, but after failing to prove his alibi, his defense was rejected. The said friend was never called to confirm. He never made an attempt through court to have the friend compelled to give his testimony. The burden was on him to show the items were not stolen. He failed to discharge that burden. Chief Magistrate Bidal said in his ruling. During his highly publicized interview, Sammy Boy revealed that identity of his friend and supposed alibi as one Onesimus Karanja. He claims the friend died in a road accident a few years ago. Now, this one is interesting. Wewe yule shahidi ambaye unaye ama mtu ambaye anaweza kuokoa kutoka kwa kesi kama hii ambapo wewe umepatikana na hatia ya kunyongwa, unasema aliaga dunia katika ajali ya barabarani miaka chache iliyopita. Now, in an interview, in an interesting turn of events, however, the name of alibi raised red flags among detectives in Nyeri. Apparently, Onesimus Karanja is in fact one of the many aliases of one of the musician's accomplices, Elias Karithi Gichuki. Karithi was profiled by police as one of the central Kenyan's most wanted criminals between 2017 and 2019. He was gunned down by police in a shootout during a botched robbery at Blue Valley area in Nyeri town on October 10, 2019. Karithi was at the time of his killing said to have been in the company of Paul Duita Washira. The two were at the time on trial for the Gilgil robbery but had skipped board and absconded court appearances. Duita is still at large, even though his alibi did not hold in the Gilgil robbery case. The 4 victims positively identified Sammy Boy and placed him at the crime scene, which convinced the court to send him to jail. Police conducted identification parades where victims managed to pick out their tormentors from a lineup of suspects. The prosecution used this as its strongest piece of evidence, securing conviction against 5 of the suspects. One of the suspects, Anthony Daiga Wandu, was acquitted for lack of sufficient evidence against him. Sammy Boy, Robert Muirigi Mureithi, and Simon Mwangi Nguyai were all added the death sentence on December 2nd, 2021. The case against the accused has been proved to the required standard. I found them guilty as charged and are convicted accordingly, Chief Magistrate Bidal said in his ruling. Elias Karithi, deceased, and Paul Duita were also convicted and sentenced in absentia. Sammy Boy said he would appeal his sentence. Now, hapa ndipo tunapaswa kukaa chini tuzungumze sasa. Sammy Boy alikuwa mwanamuziki. Na wacha hii tutaifanya kwa ajili ya vijana wenzetu pale nje ambao hazimio lako ni kuwa mwanamuziki tajika, haswa katika eneo letu la Mlima Kenya, ambapo kwa sasa tunajua celebrity ama mwanamuziki ni kitu ambacho kina pesa. Hivyo ukishatoa wimbo moja ama mbili mwenyewe huna expectations kwamba itajipa. mimi nitakuwa pale juu. Sijui tunaelewana, lakini hivyo ndivyo ilikuwa kwa Sammy Boy. Sammy Boy akatoa nyimbo akahit sana mpaka akapewa collaboration na mwimbaji Sammy Irungu ambaye kwa sasa ni apostle ama minister Sammy Irungu ambaye ni kasisi. So Sammy Boy caught up with his friend ambaye anatambulikana kama Karithi Gichuki, Elias Karithi Gichuki. Huyu ni jangili wa majangili. Alipata kwa wakati moja kulinganishwa na magaidi tajika. So the Three Musketeers ambao waliweza kusumbua sana taifa la Kenya miaka ya 1997, 1997 na 1998, wakiwa ni the Three Musketeers, Maderi, Elias Rasta, Wanugu na Washosho. Wakumbuke hao. So Nyeri kulikuwa kumewekwa mabanda ya Elias Karithi Gichuki as the most wanted criminal in Kenya. Na kulikuwa na bounty ya over 100,000 on his head, ya kwamba yule ana taarifa kuhusu alipo Elias Karithi Gichuki apeane taarifa, na akipeana taarifa Karithi atapata kushikwa na yeye ataweza kutunukiwa pesa zile na tume ya uchunguzi ya DCI. Huyu ndiye alimrecruit Sammy Boy katika kazi, na baada ya kumrecruit Sammy Boy wakawa ni kikosi kinachofanya wizi mdogo mdogo hapa na pale. Lakini mwisho siku unaelewa, we have to graduate kutokea kwa vitu ndogo tunazozifanya ndipo twende kwa kitengo kingine. So walipata kugraduate kutokea kwa kitengo cha wizi wa vitu ndogo ndogo until they graduated now to robbery with violence. Walifika mpaka kupanga kwenda kuiba kule Gergel, na kule ndipo kitumbua kiliingia mchanga. Sasa unamsikia Sammy Boy akimuita the alibi Onesmus. Huyo Onesmus ni just an alias name, yani jina la kujipagaza ambalo alikuwa amejipagaza Elias Karithi Gichuki, ndipo asijulikane na watu, so that he can camouflage and escape the dragnet of the police. So hivyo ndivyo alikuwa akiepa, na hilo lilimsaidia sana kukwepa mitego ya kuweza kukamatwa na polisi. Na huyu ndiye anatajwa kama alibi na Sammy Boy. Wewe Sammy Boy, hata ingekuwa ni alibi unayemtaja, unawezaje kuwa wewe rafiki yako unayemuita rafiki he is the most wanted criminal in Kenya between the year 2017 and 2019? No, the police will hold you accountable even for being a friend with such a guy. So Sammy Boy alijinyonga na kamba yake mwenyewe, maana yale maneno aliyoyasema yeye mwenyewe ndiye alijitia motoni. Uwezi niambia eti yeye ni rafiki wa gaidi kama huyu na ajui kazi ambayo gaidi huyu anafanya. La hasha. Aswa pia yeye ni gaidi kwa sababu gani? Kabla ya kesi kufika kufanya kabla ya wizi alikuwa ameshakodisha gari ambalo alilikondisha siku 3 kabla ya wizi, na gari lile ndilo walikuwa wamelitumia kuweza kuepa na vitu. Tunaelewana? Ndivyo mambo yalivyo. Hiki ndicho kisa chake Sammy Boy, na hiki ndicho kilichopelekea jamaa huyu aliyekuwa na career, a very promising music career, akapotelea gerezani. Watu walijaribu, watu wakaongea, a lot of people sent out their sympathies, ikiwemo akina philanthropist kama Karangwa Muraya, people trying to find a way to help Sammy Boy. But let me ask you, how can you help somebody that has already been proven guilty? Unajua kuna mahakama, kuna makesi mengine tukiangalia tunaweza at least kudeduct, tunaangalia tunaona ya kwamba kuna some question marks, lakini everybody put Sammy Boy on the crime scene. Acha niulize, wale watu walipangwa katika gwaride na wale waliokuwa wamevamiwa na hawa wezi wakaitwa wachague wale ambao waliwaona hiyo siku. Sammy Boy alichaguliwa mara si moja, 5 asilani, na wote hao walimchagua mara 5. So with no any explainable thing or without any reasonable doubt, Sammy Boy alikuwepo katika wizi ule. So yeah, Ila unajua mtu ameona kimemramba ndipo anapojaribu nemugothi nemuishi ne kaguaru are kaguaru jorwa no gothiaga so easy. He has learned his case. I bet the death sentence should, as he appeals it, atapewa life sentence, which at least he will live to at least inaweza fikia point, you know, apewe parole. That's what's up. Fanya kusubscribe. Tuungane katika video zetu zijazo. Alafu watu wengine mnaenda kuiba aje kwa boma ya wazungu? Do you know these British and rich families are protected by the government? The government will try everything possible in Kenya to protect those people so that they will have a very intimate relationship with the countries that these people come from. Hapo walijikosea wenyewe. Tuungane katika video zetu zijazo. Hii ni Gikuyu FM podcast.